Good afternoon, and we're here live on rivercountrysports.com. Joining us tonight, Coach Tim Clark from the Brantford Buccaneers. Thanks once again for joining us right here on the Coaches Show. Hey, so big win over Interlochen, traveled down there last Friday night, 56 to 20. 2026 that was right there. Hey, tell us a little bit about how that game went.
I'm really pleased, obviously, with getting a win, third one in a row, doing it on the road. That puts us, winning five of our last six, which is good momentum going into what's going to be a tough stretch here to finish out our season. Certainly was happy to come off a homecoming week. Wayne and I talked last week. We were worried a little bit about that homecoming layover, almost that effect into the following week. Getting a win, having all the things that go into homecoming, and then coming off of that and having to go win another football game. That's can always be a concern. And I thought we handled that well. We refocused and understood that they were going to be a challenge, and really honestly went down and played what I thought was one of our better football games in terms of being able to just take them out of the football game early.
Right.
Not give them any belief, in that first half to be competitive and just execute it on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, so we're now 5-2 on the season. I mean, we went down starting off playing North Florida there at home, and then against Weewa, and then Bell picking up 2 wins there. Traveled on the road to Oak Hall, and wasn't able to get the win done there in Gainesville. I mean, then played Lake Weir, went down there, and then played Hilliard and then played them at home, and then played Interlochen. So I mean, we seen a lot of dominant performances, but really one that we seen once again was your quarterback Trent Land. Tell us kind of how he played Friday night and what you like that you seen out of him.
Well, efficiency Friday night was off the charts. His accuracy and just delivering the football in catchable places. He was 12 of 15 for 307 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 picks. He wasn't sacked Friday night again, so another game that he wasn't put on the ground, which was good. He did have one pressure and was knocked to the ground one time, but he wasn't sacked. So I thought he played phenomenal. Just finding open guys, operating the offense, getting us in and out on some check with me scenarios. And then certainly when I speak of that accuracy, he was 12 of 15, and all three of his incompletions came right at the end of the first half. We got the football back and executed a win a game scenario with 40 or 50 something seconds on the clock and moved the
Right.
ball down to get it into field goal range and have a crack at field goal there before the first half ended. So, we were pushing. I thought maybe he pressed a little bit on that drive. Had a couple balls that I think he wished he'd have had back. Um, but yeah, again, outside of that drive, he did not throw an incompletion. So he was really, really good with football. Put it in places where guys could catch and run, and so you saw some big plays from Reese. TC had a big play off a bubble, and according to our guy at the Lake City Reporter, who's done some research into the records of you know Swanee and Brantford statistics, we believe that is the second most passing yards in a single game, in
Right.
Brantford history. So I thought he played great, man. Thought it was really, really good.
Yeah, no, that dominant performance for sure. But another guy that we seen a very good just being able to move the ball all over the place once he caught it with 5 receptions for 154 yards was your number 0 in Reese Vaught. I mean, what have you seen out of him that's really allowed him to get that many yards in a single game?
Well, we've spoken about Reese a lot, just in terms of his electricity with the football in his hands. He's extremely elusive. He explodes with the football. Once he gets a crease, and he's got really good hands. One thing that not a lot of people know about Reese is that if Trent were to go down, he'd probably go to the quarterback position for us.
Yeah.
Um, so in practice for the majority of the year, when we go offensive end and when we throw routes and stuff, he's throwing routes with Trent. So to have the most catches on our football team, he probably has the least amount of reps catching the football at practice of
Right.
our receiver group. Yet, I'm not sure if he's dropped one that's hit his hands this year, hit his hands clean this year. He's got really good hands, really soft hands when the ball's in a catchable position. but he'll also go up and compete. Like you saw that post route at Oak Hall, he'll go up and get
Right.
it. But in terms of catching the ball in space, he's a guy that's just always looking for that extra cut.
For sure.
So we threw the slant route from the 2 yard line in Interlochen Friday night in the second half, and he was on the far right, if on the offense is right, so our sideline up there, and he caught the slant on the right sideline, crossed the field, ended up on the left sideline
Yeah.
for 63 yards or something like that. So he's a guy that when he catches the ball in space, there is no area of the field that he's not willing to go try to exploit. So that's good. One thing I think he's done a better job of, certainly in the last few weeks, is looking for that vertical cut. So he's always been a guy that will move laterally and try to outshift guys and be elusive and put juke moves on people and stuff. But he's gotten better of really taking that first step explosiveness and using it vertically down the field. So thought we saw some of that Friday night, and that contributed to massive yards with only 5 catches.
Right. So another big part that we've seen, I'm sure, which you were very excited to see back since he's missed 2 games this season, is your running back of Ollie James. I mean, he went the other night for 151 yards just through 9 carries there on the ground, which was good. I mean, you've seen him having to sit out and what that did for him, and then when the games he was able to come back and play, then just not being 100%, but still feeling like he wanted to go all the way. Did he come to you and be like, "Hey man, I feel like I'm 100%, I'm ready to go," and then turn into that, or how'd that kind of go?
Yeah, it was really just Monday, Tuesday of last week when we were practicing. He looked a little bit different. So I think it was getting through that Hilliard game, going through the weekend, getting a little bit more rest, getting some treatment at school on Monday, and then coming to the field. And then Monday and Tuesday, he just mentioned, Coach, I feel really good. And we fed into that. We hyped that up. Like, yeah, you're back. You're back. You look exactly. We knew he's not 100%. He's still not 100%. I don't
Right.
think he's going to be 100% till the season's over, right? There's as much wear and tear as he puts on his body, running the football the way that he does. Um, but it was really good to see him, break some into the open field, but still hit those tough runs up the middle and get behind his shoulder pads and finish. But I know what he's been really missing is one of those where he just gets in the open field and puts the burners on. So it was good to see him do that. I told him on the sideline the other night, you had that first drive and he was 6 yards, 7 yards, hit one for 9, then got down. He bounced the power and scored on the power left. And I said, eventually you're going to pop one, and we're going to see how out of shape you are from sitting around so much,
Right. Yeah.
And then finally he hit that one when we were on the counter, but right before the half, and he took it down the sideline, and nobody caught him. And
Yeah.
so he came to the sideline and said, I'm not as bad a shape as you said I was. So that
Yeah.
was good to see him get one in the open field and finish it.
Yeah, no, that was fun and exciting to watch for sure. But not only Ollie running the ball, but I mean he took it down the y'all's sideline, which would have been the visitors' sideline, there one time. Then the ball got turned around and we were going the opposite way, and your guy TC said, "Hey man, give me some action too," and then he busted it down the sideline for one himself. So I mean, big plays all over the place. But I mean we're seeing guys stack up stats. I mean, quarterback Trent Land now, he's over 1,000 yards in the
Yeah.
air.
Yeah, his passing yardage right now is just over 1,300, through 7 games, which is a lot.
And
Which is a
then
lot.
and then if you add on the rushing yards that he's gotten on the ground, you're into the 1,600s as well.
I believe so. Yeah,
Just
so he's got a chance if he remains healthy and keeps producing. His goal, at least, he wants to have 2,000 yard season,
right.
in total offense. So that's certainly doable. And we've been a little bit conservative with the quarterback run game these past 2 weeks because he got a little bit dinged up there at the end of the Lake Weir game.
Yeah,
So we established the run early with our running backs in the last 2 games so that we wouldn't have to do that with our quarterback, and didn't have to, so we stayed out of that. And now we're ready to turn the wheels, let him go, open the stable on him a little bit if he's if we need it. He's willing to run the ball again and is healthy enough to do it. So
for sure.
yeah, so he might start producing a little bit more on the ground, and that can go with his passing yards, and maybe he'll have a shot at that.
Yeah, but also going along with him putting up those yards. I mean, we seen Friday night, just in 3 receptions. Trip Schultz put up 98 receiving yards, which was big as well. But on that, we're going to take a short break, but we will be right back here live on rivercountrysports.com.
You were there at the beginning. You stood behind me, guiding me through good times and bad, teaching me lessons I wouldn't appreciate until later, preparing me for the day when you couldn't be here. What you've given me, I'll carry wherever I go. And because of your planning, I know I'll go far.
Set your family up for life. Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance. Your friends for life.
Farm Bureau Insurance, serving Florida for over 70 years. In Suwannee County, you'll find Farm Bureau in Branford and in Live Oak. In Branford on Drain Street, phone 935-1274. And in Live Oak on Dowling Avenue, call 362-1274. Real service, real people, Farm Bureau Insurance.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Van Carpet One. For 78 years, we've been your local family-owned and operated floor covering store, and we can't wait to serve you. Let's go check out some of the stuff we've got and say hey to the guys.
Hey guys, this is Michael Van here at Van Carpet One. Wanted to show you our huge display of carpet. Got about 1,000 rolls for you that we can order. We also keep about 100 in stock that are on clearance, so please come down and give us a visit. We appreciate it.
Come in and see the largest tile collection in North Florida. Van Carpet One has every tile you could possibly imagine. If you can't find it here, they don't make it. Guys, take a look at this. This is just some of our options in waterproof vinyl plank, where we have the largest selection anywhere around here, including over 70 pallets in stock, ready to go right now. Come in and see our fantastic selection of elegant hardwood too, followed up by fantastic service that you expect from a company like Van Carpet One.
Come on in and see us.
We can't wait to serve you. And that's a boom shakalaka.
And we're back here live on River Country Sports. Joining us once again, Coach Tim Clark from the Brantford Buccaneers. We also want to thank all of our sponsors, Farm Bureau Insurance, Van Carpet One, and the Suwannee County School District. We want to thank all of those sponsors for continually being with us and supporting rivercountrysports.com. But, Coach, we went over kind of Friday night's game that we visited Interlochen and able to pick up the win there. But tell us a little bit about this Friday night we're taking on the Trenton Tigers. They're in Trenton, Florida, so we're going to go on the road to them. But, I mean, a little different team so far, I think, that we've seen from last year. We were able to have a pretty big win over them last year. But this year, they're 5-1 so far on the season, so I believe they've already had their bye week. But tell us a little bit about what we're seeing out of them and what we're doing to prepare for them.
Trenton's a good football team. We've been on the favorable side of the outcomes here for several years now against them. It's new coaching staff now though, and their numbers are up, and they've got it rolling there in Trenton. So familiar with the guys on staff there. They do a really good job. There's some experienced coaches on that staff. There's one of them actually coached me when I was at Branford, so I'm familiar with how well they coach football over there, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And that shows. They're physical and they're disciplined and they get after it. So they play downhill and they pursue the ball very well. They're a run team. Right now I've got them charted at 91% run, and they're a lot of heavier personnel. They run 21 personnel, put two backs in the backfield, get in the I formation, and they run it at you.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of the same things that we tend to do. But just in the shot, and we do it in the shotgun, and they're up under center. So when we run 21, and we run power, trap, and counter, stuff like that, they're doing the same type of scheme stuff, but they're doing it up under center, which creates a little bit of a different look for us because we see so much gun.
Yeah.
So really, the only under center that we saw this year, in terms of it being the primary set, was Ocall.
Yeah.
Getting up under center, and that can just create a little more difficulty for your inside backers getting the read on QB running back mesh and just reacting downhill. So you got to have great eye control, trust your keys, and then just be ready to board drill for 4 quarters.
Yeah, so it's going to be a physical game, one played in the trenches for sure. But that's one thing that we've seen a lot out of Brantford, even though, like we mentioned earlier on in the season, talking about when we were preparing for the season, one thing you had to look at was that you had a younger, a little bit smaller size offense and defensive line. which you didn't think would hinder you, and which hasn't proven to hinder us so far in the season, which has been great because, like you said, not having any sacks on the quarterback Friday night, which is really big. But Trenton so far 5-1 on the season, so they went on the road to Bell, a opponent that we also played and had a win against them 26-7. Then went on the road again to Dixie County, had a big win 48-0 over them. Then they were home against Osceola Christian, a team that Brantford doesn't play, do they?
No, we don't play Osceola.
Yeah, so they won 20 tight game, 21-20 over Osceola. Then picked up another on the road win against Jefferson County, 28-8. Played Chiefland, tough loss there, 41-0. But then this past week they played Oak Hall, so that we had the tough loss, 21-20 against Oak Hall on the road, but they were home against Oak Hall and picked up a win 42-26. I mean, we talk about not really letting scores of games really affect our thought process on how it's going to go, but I mean, do you think any of that could correlate to what we might see Friday night?
Certainly, you look at them and you want to get your first impression from those scores, and that's fine, but you really can't. You have to reserve judgment until you watch the film and you break it down and see what happened to the ebbs and flows of the game and how those scores ended up to be where they finished. And there's some on both of those ends of the spectrum there. A 26-7 win over Bell. That sounds. I mean, that's not what a lot of people would consider a blowout. It sounds like a dominant win, but not a blowout. But they played pretty dominant football against Bell. And that game to me, watching the film, was never really close. However, on the flip side of it, you look at the Oak Hall score and say, man, they put 42 points on Oak Hall, and beat them pretty handily. But then you start to break down the film and understand that game was a 2-point game. Basically, it was 28-26
Yeah.
until right there at the end. And Trenton ended up tacking two more right there at the very end of the game. So I believe that doesn't indicate that Oak Hall didn't have a chance to win that game, because they certainly did. Just a couple things happened differently. They were right at the end of the fourth quarter, and I think that Oak Hall had a shot to win that as well. So we don't look at that certainly in any way to say we can overlook Trenton. It's the opposite. It's to give us confidence that says, we have a great chance in this to be in a battle, to be in a competitive football game, and understand that we believe we can evenly match with these guys and play toe to toe with them. In terms of what you mentioned about size up front, that's the focus this week, is how do we mitigate the size differential that we have, especially on the defensive front, in terms of, can we walk some guys up into some gaps? Can we work technique to hold point and not get moved on double teams? What do we need to do to take on pullers, things like that?
Right.
So that's the focus this week. Whereas last week we're playing an interlocking team that in 94 offensive snaps in 2 weeks they threw it 46 times.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of coverage reps in
For sure.
practice. This week we're lining up and going good on good, stopping the power, inside run is what we did a lot of today, half line inside run, and just getting ready to go through a couple mouthpieces.
Yeah, so shifting your focus based off of what they're presenting you.
Right.
Yeah, so we've seen them pick up that win, but what are we really having to do differently? I mean, we're getting later on to the season. We're 7 games in. After this week, we're going into a bye week then to prepare for Mayo. So what are we having to do differently this week as we enter the later parts of the season? What we kind of seen the difference of last season compared to this season, it seems like we are more, say, gaining momentum now that we are having more players come back to their full potential and their full health. Whereas last season we just had players dropping off all over the place. I mean, ending the season with 3 starting seniors left there playing for us. It seems to be the other way around this season. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at it, we're not doing anything different. We still practice the same way. I mean, today was what we call Bloody Tuesday. We lined up and we circled it up. We went to Oklahoma. We did live team D, live team O, and we did half line inside run. So it was a physical day today. a really physical, almost 3-hour practice. So we have to keep doing what we're doing, and thank the Lord we've been blessed with good health this year, and I hope that continues. Last year it was stuff we really couldn't predict or prevent. Having broken collarbones and broken ankles. Breaks are just something you can't predict.
Right.
You just play hard, and sometimes bad stuff happens. So that was really tough last year to go through that, but found a way to win most of them down the stretch still. And finish the season strong. This year we just want to do the same, understanding though that this is a significantly tougher stretch to finish the year. Hamilton's a lot better, and we get them after Mayo, right?
Right.
We're lucky to have a bye going into Mayo, but that bye comes after playing Trenton. So I
Yeah.
mean, our next two opponents over the next 3 weeks are, top 10 teams in our classification.
Right. So we kind of see, like we mentioned about gathering momentum. I mean, the top 10 teams in the classification, which we'll go over here in a minute, kind of more the playoff standings and kind of what that's going to look like off of predictions so far. But I mean, really seeing that the later stretch being your tougher stretch and tougher part of your schedule, I mean, does that really help your players as of playing those games? I wouldn't necessarily say just their easier games earlier on in the season because I mean being 5-2 so far doesn't shows that they're not just the easiest games you can play, but allowing your team to get the most reps possible before we take on what you would call the most important games of the season. Do you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, the phrase more important kind of makes my antennas go up a little bit, because we preach every week it's 1-0, 1 week at a time, right? But
Right.
but certainly in terms of things you couldn't predict, how Trenton's season was going to go, how Mayo's season was going to go, in Hamilton. Now, hindsight's 2020. Now, yes, these are huge games because of how these teams' seasons have gone.
Yeah.
Hamilton is much improved, and I believe they're over 500 right now.
Yeah.
Mayo obviously is one of the stronger teams in our classification, has some big wins this year, and got another big one Friday night, and then certainly Trenton has turned things around, and at 5-1 has some really good wins on their resume. It's going to be really tough. So it's just how it turned out. If you told me at the beginning of the year, that Trenton and Hamilton would be, two of the better, really tough teams down the stretch for us in there with Mayo, I wouldn't have had any reason to agree with you there, but now certainly they are.
Yeah, for sure. So we kind of went over this upcoming game and what we're kind of looking forward to, but as we review a little bit more about the rankings and the playoff standings, we'll join you back here in a minute live on rivercountrysports.com. We've got Coach Clark with us. How are you doing today, Coach Clark?
I'm doing great.
So how's the season been going so far? I mean, you've had a a couple different guys that have came into your program, and then many guys who have been in the program for a while. I mean, what has that kind of been looking like for you?
Some of those guys that you mentioned that have come into our program over the course of the summer months have already made an impact and shown that we've got some ability at positions to spread the football around, defensively, add a little bit of team speed to our back end, and I'm just excited about the energy that we showed on pretty productive day one.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely good to hear. So you've also got your quarterback is going into ninth grade or going into 10th grade, correct? And then your starting running back as well is going into ninth grade. So just right there up front, the first person to touch the ball and the second person to get to touch the ball. I mean, both young guys. I mean, what have you really been able to kind of put into their head and get their mindset like that is really going to help your team without allowing the hindrance of the youth there in them.
Well, they are young guys, but they're also guys that dual rostered for us last year. They played on Thursday night and came up and played on Friday nights. And then certainly at the point in which that JV season ended, they became full-time varsity guys and got a lot of experience for us. So Trent became our starting quarterback for really the remaining third of the season last year. Started a playoff game in Hawthorne. Same thing for Ollie. He was running the football for us, playing safety for us on the road in Hawthorne round one, and he wasn't scared a bit. So these are guys that have varsity experience under their belt and can have shown they can play high level ball no matter what grade they're in. So honestly, that doesn't factor into my evaluation of what they can do as players. I've already told them they need to be leaders. Even Ollie, as a freshman, needs to be that guy who kind of makes our offense go in terms of that spark. But at the same time, understanding that the pressure doesn't need to be too big on him. I still understand he's a freshman. He needs to have fun playing the game and develop through those natural progressions of being a varsity football player. He needs to enjoy it. I don't want to put too much on his back as a young kid, but man, I've got all the confidence in the world that I can let him tote the rock.
For sure, for sure. Yeah. So you've this is what, your seventh going on eighth season, or eighth season here being the head coach at Brantford?
Man, I don't know. I think this is season 9 as a head coach. I don't.
Season 9.
Yeah,
So
I believe so.
you've been around the Brantford program. You went to school here in Brantford, and then went and furthered your football career playing collegiate level. I mean, so you've been around these guys and different groups of guys for a long time. But what really, I mean, you see guys get down all the time. I mean, what really do you think that allows them to keep their head up and keep going to 100% that you do, that really helps them out there?
Well, I have to model that. I've told these guys every single day. I mean, yeah, you'd be crazy to think there aren't days that I'm a little bit down, right?
Right.
That my energy's a little bit lacking, but I try not to ever show that. So I ask them, how many times you, and this goes for all our coaches too. It's not something that I just do. I think it's inherent to the profession, but you ask how many days you see Jerry Coker have a bad day, right? And defensive line coach, how many times have you seen Coach Wiles come out here without juice, right? How many times have you seen Coach Clark come out here and just be like, man, Coach Clark's in bad mood today? I mean, we just love what we do, and if we expect energy from them and enthusiasm and all that stuff from Monday through Thursday and then translate on a Friday night, man, we got to show it too. So you're never going to see us come out to practice or to any scenario within our program where we're preparing, where we're not focused and we're not juiced up.
Right.
So
So as we've had conversations with your other players, some of your star players, and then other key parts of the team, a big remaining and kind of maintained word has been brotherhood. I mean, even speaking to, we've previously speaking with alumni that have been through the system with you here coaching. I mean, what really do you think has worked the best to develop that brotherhood? Because I know it's been on the field, off the field, I mean, and then even different activities y'all participate in with your players that doesn't include football.
well, I think that's something that a lot of coaches preach, but you have to really put in an action if the kids are going to buy into it and believe it. So, I mean, as being a player here, we are very proactive. We're very intentional about building relationships with kids and making sure that they understand that we care about the whole human being more than just the Friday night football player. And to do that, you've got to be involved in their grades and their hobbies, and you got to ask how their families are doing. You want to be there for them with the ups and downs. I tell all the kids, man, I've got you for 3, maybe 4 years, but then, man, I want to know your kids. I want to go to your wedding, like all that stuff. So, we're very intentional about that. And so I think that has produced within our program, a reputation for a close knit group. And these guys that have come in, they've all pretty much to a T said that they've heard that, and then when they come in, they reiterate that they've experienced it. And I think it's a way that we have been able here to do things year in and year out that maybe might be a little bit above our means talent wise. Because year in and year out, the talent's going to fluctuate in a small town, in a small school. But if you build that program with the foundational principles and that theme of it being rooted in something that's beyond the X's and O's, then you're always going to have a pretty good group. Have a pretty good season, and then hopefully when you're on the highs of those swings of talent, then you have something in place, a structure that can hopefully do something special.
Yes, sir, for sure. So you've been around Brantford, which is one of the smaller schools in the area,
Mhm.
and so like opposed to like a Fort White or say Columbia High School, you've built that connection with the players and that brotherhood here within the program. That is something, do you believe that is easier, a whole lot easier to do? Like how is that maintained in a larger setting? I mean, because you may not be able to connect with every student in a larger setting like that one-on-one. So do you kind of feel like you've been placed in the right area to be able to do that in Brantford?
Yeah, certainly. It definitely is easier in a smaller town, in a smaller setting, like you said, and just numerically, you're able to connect with more of those kids just because the group's a little bit smaller, But I believe it's something I would try to do no matter what program I'm at. But at the next level when I was there, that's one of the biggest programs in the country, and I felt like I learned a lot of valuable lessons from the coaching staff there, the different ones that I had about connecting with guys there. I mean, so if you can do it at that level, we can certainly do it at this level. And so we've just been intentional about that, and I think it's something that the kids, once we got it going, it's not me, it's not our coaches, it's the kids in the program keeping that going. So it's been good.
For sure, for sure. Getting all the not just your coaches that are on the same mindset of things, but having your players also buy into things that translates to things like being in the weight room and your players wanting to give 100% or being on the field and them giving that 100%, but also working while they're off of the field on their own time, which is allowing them to build and do better for the program as a whole.
Yep, 100%. Those are things you can't coach, and certainly when you have kids come through that are self-starters and self-motivated like that, it makes my job a whole lot easier.
For sure, for sure. Well, thank you for joining us today, Coach Clark, on the rivercountrysports.com.
Excellence in academic and clubs. Tradition, family, future. Foundations for lifelong learning. Leadership begins here. Careers start here. Curiosity meets opportunity. Building the leaders of tomorrow. Learning begins with love. One district, every student, every day. The Suwannee County School District, my choice for high quality education.
And we're back here live on River Country Sports for more of tonight's Coaches Show. Hey, thanks for joining us again right here on River Country Sports, Coach Clark. Hey, so we are nearing the end of the season. I mean, we're 7 games in so far. Looking forward to this game Friday night against Trenton. They're in Trenton, Florida, and then taking on a bye week, and then we will be home against Mayo, and then we'll be away at Hamilton. The last 3 games of the season, potentially the toughest 3 games of the season. But very important games because I mean, if we're looking at the last updated list, I mean, I have the list to the rankings so far for the rural bracket for the playoffs. But standing in first place is Bluntstown, followed by Taylor County, Chiefland, and fourth being Hawthorne, then going Williston, Pahokee, Trenton at number 7, which is the team that we play this Friday, and then the following team we play, Lafayette, being in number 8th place, so that's big there as well. But following that is Fort Meade, Madison County, Baker, Chipley, Liberty, and then Brantford at 14, Cottondale, and then Fort White at 16. But I mean, kind of two. What are some of your thoughts? I mean, we're seeing 2 of the teams that we're playing. Our next 2 games are number 7 and number 8. What are your thoughts on kind of things going into that?
Well, obviously, we understand it's a big challenge to play two top 10 teams back to back, even with a bye in between. That's a tall order, for sure. But I told our guys today, look, there's a lot of football teams around the state. I mean, there are 650 something teams in the state of Florida, public schools. I don't know, but there's a pile of them today that already know right now, 7 games in, 8 games in, whatever that they're not going to make the playoffs, in their classification or whatever district, region classification they're in. They may already be eliminated from postseason contention.
Right.
They may already be eliminated from the opportunity to have a winning season at this point with what they've got left. So there's a lot of football teams where the goals, that they may have set at the beginning of the year are unachievable now at this point and unattainable. And so, we're really fortunate and we're proud of the work that's been put in to be in the position right now that this game Friday night it matters a lot, to play football games in October that mean something, that have playoff ramifications, that, mean a lot to other area teams in our classification. Because certainly, man, you look at, I think Hamilton County is off this week. Mayo, I think is off this week. And so they're going to be in Trenton, watching us, right? I mean,
Right.
it's going to affect a lot of people. If you're, around here, Fort White, sitting right there at the 16 spot, they're going to be really keyed in on what happens in Trenton Friday night, between us and them. So we're fortunate and we're thankful to be in a position to be playing a big football game. There's a lot of teams that aren't. So
Yep.
we're playing a game that matters. We're playing a game that, like I said, is really, really important. So that's the reason, right? That is important because we're playing a good team. We're playing a team that is in the top 10. They're firmly in the playoff picture. And they're playing us, who we're in the bracket as well at the moment. So that's what we want. We want to play big football games. We want them to matter, and that's where we're at this Friday.
Yeah, so last year being the first year that they did the bracket set up like this, and then the B bracket, which is the teams that don't fall into the top 16 competing there for a championship as well. But the teams that do fall into the top 16, Brantford there going into the postseason was number 16 last year, so which put us on the road there against Hawthorne in the first round of the playoffs, which then did not turn out how we wanted it to. But I mean that's big. I mean you're playing if you're right now number 14, then you're taking on number 3 of Chiefland. I mean, so if you can pick up a win over Trenton along with a win over Lafayette, I mean if you're the 8th place or above, you're hosting. I mean, how big would that be for that to take place in Brantford?
Right. That would be enormous. That would be huge, obviously. You know, we uh, we set the goal at the beginning of the year to have a winning season, make the playoffs again, and then if we're fortunate enough to accomplish those goals, we want to be that group that wins a playoff game, for the first time in over 20 years at Brantford. And we don't want to look past that. Like we want to accomplish those goals, and then we want to take it one game at a time. So that's what we want to do, and to do that, we have to take it one game at a time this week. And so Trenton's a good football team, and like I said, this is a big one in our classification, and certainly in our area. So that's what we're focusing on right now.
Yeah, so if you are like this week playing Trenton and then next week having a bye, a lot of times what it's nice to have finishing off with 2 big games. It's nice to have that week of recovery. But a lot of times people associate a bye week with a week that kind of slows down momentum. Like I mean, we've seen in the college football, them having a lot of teams having a bye week and then playing a team and then having another bye week. So if you're kind of getting on a roll and then you're getting everybody in the flow of things, that kind of slowing down your momentum. Do you believe that's something that will help you more or will hurt you more coming into later in the season?
I think it just depends on the maturity and mindset of your football team. I think this is a group that can be locked in for an extended period of time if we need to. I think at our level with our numbers, a bye week is always a good thing just because we're banged up every Friday night. I mean, we don't make it through a Friday night where somebody's not nicked up a little bit
Right.
with the amount of snaps that our kids take because so many of them play both ways, and on special teams and everything else. So the bye week's going to be welcome for sure. We can, it's for recovery for sure, but it's also a time where we can go back and maybe hit some fundamental things, some technique things that you don't always get the opportunity to do within the process of your Monday through Thursday prep. It's pretty regimented. We stick to it. And you've been in the program. It's a pretty standard script Monday through Thursday, in terms of what we have to accomplish, and it's minute to minute in terms of how it's scheduled out. So bye week gives us a chance to work, Brantford versus Brantford. If we want to install anything that we've been wanting to try, maybe a wrinkle here or there, we can do that. So it certainly is definitely more than just about recovery and getting kids healthy.
Yeah, so you think that really being more than recovery and getting kids healthy, you're the maturity of your team will allow you to stay focused in on preparing for these next couple weeks and what you need to do to accomplish winning out the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we present that to the kids too. There's incentives in our bye week. We normally typically don't in a bye week practice every day. We like to give them at least that Friday off of the bye week. We're not playing, so we'd like to give them that day off. They can go watch a game somewhere in the area if they want. As coaching staff, we may go try to canvass the area and see somebody play live. Maybe that's an opportunity for us to go see Mayo play, go see Hamilton play. And so we'll use those to our advantage, but also give the kids a chance to decompress, practice throughout the week, get what we need done, and then give them some time off.
For sure. So I think that's going to be big for sure. But one thing you see a lot within the rankings for the top 16 for the playoffs is the strength of schedule coming into play. So I mean, if you want to just a team, for example, that won the state championship last year in Madison County, being ranked at number 10 currently because they're through the season are 2-4 right now, but then that strength of schedule being the toughest out of any of the top 16s that are in there currently. So I don't think that it plays that much into part where they're ranked currently, but more of their strength of schedule.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody knows that the Madison's a good football team, and they play a high level competition, and I believe they'll be securely into the playoffs, and at that point, they'll be a tough team to contend with for sure because of the type of opponents that they've had to face this season.
Yeah, so a lot of preparation going into a 1A a 1A playoff. I mean, they've faced last week a 6A team in Pace, which was a big challenge for them as well. But I mean, we're going to take another short break, but we'll be right back here to wrap up the show on rivercountrysports.com.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Van Carpet One. For 78 years, we've been your local family-owned and operated floor covering store, and we can't wait to serve you. Let's go check out some of the stuff we've got and say hey to the guys.
Hey guys, this is Michael Van here at Van Carpet One. Wanted to show you our huge display of carpet. Got about 1,000 rolls for you that we can order. We also keep about 100 in stock that are on clearance, so please come down and give us a visit. We appreciate it.
Come in and see the largest tile collection in North Florida. Van Carpet One has every tile you could possibly imagine. If you can't find it here, they don't make it. Guys, take a look at this. This is just some of our options in waterproof vinyl plank, where we have the largest selection anywhere around here, including over 70 pallets in stock, ready to go right now. Come in and see our fantastic selection of elegant hardwood too, followed up by fantastic service that you expect from a company like Van Carpet One.
Come on in and see us.
We can't wait to serve you. And that's a boom shakalaka.
You were there at the beginning. You stood behind me, guiding me through good times and bad, teaching me lessons I wouldn't appreciate until later, preparing me for the day when you couldn't be here. What you've given me, I'll carry wherever I go. And because of your planning, I know I'll go far.
Set your family up for life. Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance. Your friends for life.
Farm Bureau Insurance, serving Florida for over 70 years. In Suwannee County, you'll find Farm Bureau in Branford and in Live Oak. In Branford on Drain Street, phone 935-1274. And in Live Oak on Dowling Avenue, call 362-1274. Real service, real people, Farm Bureau Insurance.
And we're back here live on rivercountrysports.com. Once again, joining us tonight, Coach Tim Clark from the Brantford Buccaneers. So, Coach Clark, we kind of went over last week's dominant win. They're over in Interlaken. So we traveled down there and we're able to put up some big numbers throughout multiple players of the team. But then we're viewing this Friday night's game against Trenton, in Trenton. So 2 weeks in a row being there on the road. So that's going to be a big one that we are going to be excited. And then you can actually go on and watch live Friday night at 7:15. We'll be live on rivercountrysports.com. But make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and share it with all of your friends. That way they can keep up with the live Brantford Buccaneer football action as well. But so going into the playoff as a team that we believe can hopefully compete and get a hopefully a playoff win there as well. But playing two big teams like we mentioned in Trenton and Lafayette that are currently ranked 7 and 8 on the season, having that bye week after we play Trenton to prepare to end the season at Lafayette and Hamilton there. But that's going to be big for sure in hopes for the Brantford Buccaneers to do something in the postseason as well. But I also wanted to thank my streaming producer for tonight, Rivers Martinez, for being here and keeping us on track and throughout the show tonight. But so we wanted you to join us Friday night live on rivercountrysports.com. 7:15 will be in Trenton, Florida. So join us there, and then we will see you right back here next time on rivercountrysports.com.